The tactic of using unmanned craft as force multipliers isn't new. Back in the 80s, any strike plans we came up with included the use of the tactical air-launched decoy, which could be dropped by Tomcats, Hornets, or intruders to make the enemy think there were more airplanes coming at them than there actually were, or as the name implies, to decoy threat aircraft along a bogus axis and force them to dedicate assets unnecessarily. But the TALD wasn't powered and couldn't maneuver after it was released. Now the Air Force is updating the same concept using new technology, except they plan on using it in the aggressor role. The Air Force Research Laboratory Aerospace Systems Directorate has awarded a Small Business Innovation Research contract to Blue Force Technologies to develop an unmanned air vehicle that supports adversary air training missions. The contract for what's called the Bandit Program was awarded $9 million to build 4 concept vehicles. Under the Bandit Program, Blue Force Technologies, a small aerospace and defense company based in North Carolina, will mature a high-performance unmanned vehicle design known as Fury, which Air Force fighter pilots will train against. Allison Chury, the Air Force Research Lab Bandit Program Manager, said, "The small unmanned adversary air systems can be flown in training scenarios so that fighter pilots can train against tactically relevant adversaries in threat representative numbers. The goal is to develop an unmanned platform that looks like a 5th-generation adversary with similar vehicle capabilities." The Air Force currently maintains several aggressor squadrons of fighter aircraft that act as enemy Red Air forces during training exercises, such as the F-16Cs flown by the 64th Aggressor Squadron at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. However, because the service does not have enough aggressor aircraft to simulate the numbers of enemies that U.S. pilots could face during a war, it also has been forced to rely on contract Red Air from companies such as Draken International and Textron's Airborne Tactical Advantage Company. But even that's not a full solution to the problem, as old 3rd-generation fighters bought secondhand from foreign nations form the basis of most contract aggressor fleets, making it almost impossible for the U.S. Air Force to train against stealthy 5th-generation aircraft without having to delegate the aggressor role to its own pilots. And the Navy and Marine Corps have the same challenges. Andrew Van Timmeren, Vice President of Government Solutions for Blue Force Technologies and a former F-22 pilot, told Breaking Defense, "There are flights going on as we speak all around the country where there are F-35s flying against other F-35s. I would say that those Red Air flights have minimal value as far as preparation for the high-end fight. If we can replace even just 10 or 15% of those Red Air sorties with F-35s back on the Blue Air side, Fury is going to be paying for itself in readiness overnight." But that doesn't mean that all adversary forces will transition to being unmanned. "We are augmenting the manned adversary air that's already out there," Van Timmeren said. "We are not going to be replacing it wholesale." This busy spring and summer season, you can count on Factor for fast, tasty meals that fit your lifestyle. Factor supports wholesome eating made simple. Their menus are updated weekly and include 27-plus meals and 33-plus add-on options. Choose your favorite meals or let Factor craft your order based on your taste preferences and meal history. Factor is my go-to lunch and dinner solution when I lose track of time creating the next episode for the channel, which happens a lot. It's cheaper than takeout, and with all of the chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly options, there's always something new to try. With Factor, you not only skip the trip to the grocery store, you skip the chopping, prepping, and cleanup too. Just vent the cover and pop the meal into the microwave. 2 minutes later, you have a delicious, and I mean delicious, meal that doesn't taste like something that can be prepared that quickly. Amp up your Factor order with add-ons like proteins, juices, energy bites, veggie sites, desserts, and more. And don't worry, Factor's snacks and desserts accommodate those following plant-based and keto diets. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use the code WARDCarroll50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Another important point is that although Fury will have a similar aerodynamic performance as modern fighters, being capable of 9G turns, it will not be optimized for close-in aerial combat. Dogfighting will continue to be the arena of piloted aircraft flown by aggressor squadrons like the 64th or contract aggressors like Draken. Where Fury will excel is in simulating battle against low observable fighter jets occurring beyond visual ranges. Fury is designed with a reduced radar cross-section that mimics 5th-generation jets, making it a good fit to test human pilots' abilities to find, identify, and target stealth aircraft using their sensors. The Fury aircraft will measure 28 feet long with a 17-foot wingspan and have a 5,000-pound max takeoff weight. Other than the design fuselage of the aircraft itself, Van Timmeren said, "We are not inventing anything with this aircraft. The engine, flight computers, and other components are all commercial, off-the-shelf systems. Blue Force is also attempting to keep the unit cost in the single-digit millions of dollars. Van Timmeren is quick to point out that Blue Force Technologies is only responsible for the development of the air vehicle itself, not the sensors or the mission systems or the AI that will ensure drones maintain safe separation from manned aircraft and otherwise behave like a piloted fighter. The questions about how and where operators will control Fury drones, including the level of autonomy those drones will ultimately have, will be up to the Air Force. Those questions are non-trivial. Just like adding the MQ-25 to a carrier air wing introduces a bunch of issues beyond what, say, changing one of the squadrons from Tomcats to Super Hornets does. How do drones fit into carrier flight operations? Do they launch off the CAT and trap first or last? What does that do to the aircraft carrier's steaming time into the wind, especially in a high threat area where the carrier needs to remain unpredictable or when sea room is limited? Who controls them during the various phases of flight, and where are those drone pilots located? So let's think about how life in an aggressor squadron would change with Fury drones in the mix, starting with the flight brief.
All right, gentlemen, we have a hop to take. The hard deck on this hop will be 10,000 feet. There'll be no engagement below that. Move it!
Let's say we're a Super Hornet squadron doing air wing training at NAS Fallon, and today's mission is combat air patrol with a division going against an unknown number of simulated enemy aircraft, 4VX as we call it. The Bandit aircraft are being flown by Top Gun, F-16s and F-18s. In accordance with the standard safety procedures, training rules must be briefed face-to-face. However, the Bandits are allowed to send a rep to the mass gaggle brief and then brief the others separately, so they don't give away the X part, which is how many Bandits there actually are. Back in the day, as we were manning up our Tomcats, we used to try to count the VF-43 aggressor airplanes as they taxied and took off for launch, but that wasn't always good intel. And once the mission is complete, the X part isn't a mystery anymore, so everybody shows up for the debrief. Now, how does adding Fury drones to the mix change things, the part that Van Timmeren said was up to the services? First, it's common sense that in addition to the manned Bandit aircraft rep at the brief, there would also be a Fury drone rep present, even though there's no intent for the drones to merge with the fighters. Also, the training rules have to be modified to account for the fact that at least 4 of the aircraft in the warning area are unmanned. Let's say the manned aircraft get the block 1 to 4 and the drones get the block 5 to 9. And overall, the burden of see and avoid will be on the manned aircraft. Tactics-wise, the drones and manned threat aircraft would act as separate groups, giving the fighters they're going against an advanced combined 4th and 5th generation sorting and targeting problem. Executing a good BVR timeline with this sort of presentation would fully challenge the capabilities of F-35 and Super Hornet crews in that they'll have to honor the long-range passive threat while getting spiked by the radars of the aggressor's Vipers and Super Hornets all the way to the merge and visual arena. That's going to be realistic training, no doubt. And where do drone pilots go to fly the Fury? Are there dedicated spaces in the hangar, or is there a trailer somewhere across the base? And who's flying the drones? Aggressor pilots like those at VF-43 at NAS Oceana would have as many as 3 NATOPS quals, A4, F5, and F-16, which gave the flight schedule writer all kinds of flexibility in meeting the tasking each day. So let's take an aggressor squadron like Top Gun. Will winged fighter pilots fly the Fury in addition to the Viper and the Super Hornet? Or will being a drone pilot become a warfare specialty unto itself, controlled by a completely different chain of command from that controls the aggressor squadrons? These questions don't have to be answered right now, but they do need to be answered before the Bandit program reaches some sort of initial operational capability. The bottom line is this is happening. Fighter drones are coming to hostile skies, both simulated and real, near you. As Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall said, the development of things like the Bandit program and drone wingmen for the B-21 bomber and next-generation air dominance fighter is not just a science project for the service, it's an imperative.
The end is inevitable, Maverick. Your kind is headed for extinction.
Maybe so, sir. But not today.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. If you're not already a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything. If you'd like to help support the channel, please consider using the super thanks, the heart icon below, or become a patron at patreon.com/WardCarroll. And don't forget our newsletter, The Mooch Report, comes out every Tuesday, chock full of channel updates and highlights of military news. Check the episode description below for the link where you can subscribe for free. And in the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.